What's going on, everybody? It's Wednesday, July 19th. Another hot night here on the farm. It's 8:30 p.m. and tonight we're going to talk about pigs. We're going to tell you why we got into pigs and how it's going so far. Hasn't always been the greatest, and we've definitely ridden a bit of a roller coaster to start, but we'll get into it tonight with you. So really the reason we went with pigs in 2023, my goal every year on the farm was to try something different. What's our next big step? Last year was the sheep, and I felt really good after raising the sheep for a year with very minimal issues. So this year we're thinking, okay, what's it going to be? Really, pigs were kind of that missing hole there. Pork, we raise chickens every year, so pork was kind of that missing link as to what fills our freezer every winter. I get a half a cow from somebody I work with, locally raised. We raise our own chickens here. So pork was really that missing link, and I figured, well, why not? We already have the pen set up. We were expanding our pasture for the sheep, so why not go with pigs? So stumbled upon it end of January, found 2 guinea hogs for $60 a piece. So at that point, I looked at my wife and I said, there's no way we can fail with this. It's $60. What's the worst that can happen? So we ended up getting 2 male guinea hogs, which we traveled for a little bit, picked them up, brought them back here to the farm, thought everything was great. Pigs continued to grow, taking on feeding, thinking this is awesome, having 2 pigs on the farm, and you can picture them, little piglets just growing up, and it became quite easy, just get in here, feed with them. I had an electric wire run across to separate. Well, actually, first we put electric netting down to basically separate the old sheep pasture, and man, they rooted everything up. They tilled, and it looked like a freshly plowed field, cleared off all this underbrush in here. I was so excited on what these pigs were doing for us. So naturally, I'm like, all right, let's get a couple more. So we kept a lookout on Craigslist and things like that, local sites. Found 3 Idaho pasture pigs for a reasonable price as well. So I'm like, why not? Let's go 3 more. We have the 2 males. These are 3 females. Basically figured it out that we'll raise one out for us. We'll raise one out for my brother, and we'll raise one out for my dad, and we'll have the other 2 for either us or our in-laws or whatever. Plenty of meat to go around for this winter. So we went out, we picked up the 3 Idaho pasture pigs. Really neat little piglets, a neat little farm we picked them up from. Turns out it gets a little worse from here though. So after the Idahos came home to the farm, we really started to, I guess, run into some trouble here with the pigs. So the first thing that happened, the Idahos came here in early April, and the first major thing that happened is those 2 male guinea hogs we bought. Yeah, that shows how much I knew about pigs. One was a female, and we had a litter of 7 piglets. So here I am, 7 piglets, 2 adult pigs, 3 IPPs. So all of a sudden we go from having 2 pigs to 5 pigs to a dozen pigs. And as you can imagine, the first thought in my head is, how on earth am I going to feed all these animals? Because if anyone knows anything about pigs, they take on a ton of feed. At first, obviously, the piglets are going to nurse on the mother. So we had a little bit of time to work with, but we were scrambling to figure out, okay, what were we going to do? So right away, we think, okay, we're going to sell a bunch. And that's when things really kind of turned ugly for us. This is where the ugly comes in. So you can see the piglets here now. When they first came out, man, they were tiny. They were extremely small. And of course, we got torrential rains a few days later. We were building all sorts of, we had shelters in place from the sheep, and we were pulling them over, trying to tarp them because they would only move so far from the mother. So we were tarping up the shelters, trying to drape everything off so that the piglets wouldn't get wet. They all made it. They all made it fine. The piglets started to grow a little bit, and then after a few days, we did end up losing one. Pretty common cause there. They suffocated bedding down at night. Sometimes the the mother pigs or the boar will actually lay on them and suffocate them, and that is common. It's unfortunate. Obviously, it was our first loss, and it was really sad, but we're still in a good spot. A few days later, one of the IPPs, it was an all brown one, and they were still pretty young at the time. I was just feeding and doing the normal routine, and I could just tell something was off. The thing was breathing very heavy, kind of making like a squealing noise, not really sure what was going on. I'm obviously no livestock vet here by any means, so obviously looking things up, doing research, not really sure what to do, and unfortunately by the next morning she had gone. So that was our second loss there, one of the IPPs, which we obviously still have the two here, as you can see. But after that, then things got really strange from our pig experience. I thought, 2 losses, it's I guess the cost of your tuition, if you will. It's your learning experience, the cost to learn raising livestock like this. You're gonna have your losses, you're gonna eat some costs there. But then we had noticed some of these smaller piglets, some of these guinea hogs, they started scratching on everything. And at first we thought it was just kind of funny, the way they rub up against the different stuff, their chicken coop, logs. And then we realized that one of the IPPs actually had a large sore on it. And right away I'm thinking, okay, maybe it's just a cut. We did have some loose wire around the outside, or maybe one of the older pigs laid into her and put a bite in her leg, which isn't really that common, but it could happen. And then we realized what it actually was. As days went on, her skin started getting scaly and really sore. Some of these little guys, they got really sore as well. You could just tell something was not right. It was some sort of infection. Turns out it was mange mite, which was completely demoralizing. You really felt like a failure at that point. How in the world do our pigs get mites? We have a clean environment here. They have, like I said, about 1/3 of an acre to roam on. So how do our pigs, mange mite, anything you look up, mange mites are unsanitary environment, unsanitary conditions, storing them in a barn or something like that. And these animals, I mean, that's the last thing we have. We have a clean environment here. Really, it's not overly crowded, anything like that. So as you can imagine, I was extremely worked up about it, not really sure what to do. First time raising these animals, I'm thinking I'm gonna lose everything. So it turns out it was the mange mite, and we tried to act as quickly as we could. The biggest thing was I have no idea how we're gonna do this. I knew that there was some pour-on agri-mectin type products, and I knew there was injectable stuff, and the injectable stuff is probably the most effective, so that's what I wanted to go with right away. Picked up a thing of agri-mectin from Valley Vet Supply, which I would highly recommend. They do sell the same stuff at Tractor Supply, Valley Vet. Very quick shipping. Prices were significantly cheaper for a larger size there of the agri-mectin. So picked up some of them, or some of that, picked up some syringes, and we were gonna have at it as far as doing our own vet work on our piglets and our pigs here. It was a really interesting experience. So to catch these little things, we had this grand plan that we were gonna wrangle them up, and we were gonna get them in this little electric netting and do them one by one, mark them to keep track. Well, let me tell you that once the first one gets stuck, that plan goes completely out the window. So we ended up taking a large fishing net and actually kind of cornering them off in the pen, catching them one by one. We got the job done. The little ones were pretty easy. The big ones, forget it. We weren't getting the boar and the sow there, so we ended up getting the pour-on stuff to take care of them, which turned out to be very easy. Definitely would recommend that as well. But as far as the injectable stuff, you could tell within a few days it already had started to work there. And then again, things turned south for us. Walking through the pen one night, I just noticed another one was just acting really strange, and this was at least a week later. So I don't think it's a result of overdosage or anything like that. I think our dosing was correct. But that one was just real sluggish, like the brown IPP that we had, the same type of thing. And unfortunately, she didn't make it either. So I'm assuming that's some sort of respiratory infection or something very close there. A few days later, actually, I'm just walking through and I'm doing my evening feeding, doing this exact thing, watering. And I walk up to where I typically feed them. And next thing I see 2 piglets just laying there. They were out for a while past. So at that point we had lost 3 more piglets in a couple days. So out of the 7 we had lost 4. And at this point I was ready to kind of give up on the pigs, and you're not going to there, but that was about as low as it got with our pig experience so far. Just knowing that could there have been something different we done. We certainly tried our best. We weren't going to let the whole group of pigs die there, so we certainly tried to treat them. In the meantime, the others were healing though, so something was definitely working. And since then we've been good. The others have taken off. The mother has started to gain some weight back. The piglets have weaned off of her, so they're on full feed now, and they're all putting on a pretty good amount of size. So our boar here, he's pretty big, and then the others are definitely gaining size. So we hit that rock bottom there for a while. We did lose a significant number. I mean, we ended up losing 5 pigs total, but we're still left with 7. So it's still more meat than we can possibly handle this year. But we are gonna obviously give some out to family. Might look to keep a couple to breed. But that's our pig experience so far. It's kind of started on a real high note. We got a little rocky there, and then boom, plummets. Back up we go, and things are definitely on the up now. The only other thing I'll say that kind of bothers me about pigs, that honestly isn't that big of a deal, is just look around. I mean, this is our watering tank. They just destroy things. They make a mess. But that's all part of it. And I'm learning that. I would learn that don't ever plant your old garden in this area, because you're not going to have a garden there, which is why we moved our garden this year. Don't put your chicken coop in there, because the pigs are going to rub up against. They're going to crawl under it. Whatever they can do, they're going to break it. They'll break anything. So aside from that, pigs have been great. We've learned a lot this year, and we'll definitely look to keep you guys updated.